we're excited to have Tomas from Matchain. He is joining us. So Matchain is an AI identity layer for Web3. Matchain is a decentralized AI blockchain focused on data and identity sovereignty, utilizing advanced AI for data aggregation, analytics, and user profile to enhance decentralized identity solutions and data management. Um, Thomas is Chief Strategy Officer at Matchain. So, as we're getting into the topic today, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Yeah, happy to. And this is, when you have marketing, write a description of what we are. So hopefully we'll be able to translate it to all of our listeners later. But yeah, briefly about me. So um, I got into the Web3 space by mining Bitcoin. My dad sent me an email about Bitcoin in 2012. I did not respond to it till 2017. A lesson from that: listen to your parents. Um, in his email, he said, Bitcoin's at $600. Is this interesting? Of course, when I got into it, it was much more expensive. Um, but anyway, I started mining Bitcoin in 2017. Then I tokenized the Bitcoin mine. So did one of the first RWAs in late 2019. And that was at the beginning of DeFi. That led me to Chainlink Labs, where I helped them grow from 80 customers to 1,600 in little over a year. And then I went to Scroll, a ZK EVM L2 on Ethereum, where I helped the team there, Sandy, Hightrend, the team at Scroll, to launch the blockchain. I did not last through TGE. That hasn't happened yet. Hopefully that will happen soon. And then I got poached by BNB Chain, and I moved to Dubai, and I helped to grow users on BNB Chain. Spent a lot of time growing OPBNB. Met Patrick's at an event in Istanbul, and ended up joining Matchain as the head of strategy. So that's how I got on this spaces.
Absolutely awesome. Well, thank you for that introduction. And yeah, so you mentioned that when the marketers kind of give the description of Matchain, why don't you tell us a little bit about what Matchain does?
Right. So we have this vision around sovereign identity. What that basically means, that today you get great service from Google and Facebook and X. You get to use these platforms for free, but they monetize your data. And today that means that they sell advertising to you, that they charge other companies to present you with ads, and they make lots of money. Google is one of the most profitable companies in the world. So is Microsoft, so is Facebook, so is Apple, etc. They monetize your data. Our vision is that you get to monetize your data. And what's happening next is that while monetizing data for advertising is profitable, monetizing data for AI will be incredibly profitable, right? Today, Facebook, if you use it, or X, or Google, has enough data on you to create your own agent, to basically create a digital identity of yourself that can interact with services and then go shop for you, etc. Very, very valuable. Our vision is that you get to opt in, who gets to monetize your data, and you get a piece of that. Like literally, you get tokens, you get money in return for making your data available to advertisers, and to AI companies. And that is what we are building on Matchain. So that's why we talk about identity, data that comes with the user identity, and AI. All of those pieces are coming together.
All right. Well, that is a lot to dive into. Um, I love the explanation. I love your background. Um, AI is something that I certainly have been aware of for a little bit, and data analytics is something that I've been passionate about my whole life. My father was a data scientist, so the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. But I have definitely been really curious about how AI is going to really push us forward and make software development easier, make tracking things, even from like a business standpoint. Instead of having to build custom queries and things, allowing businesses and decision makers just to ask brief questions. So I think we've definitely got a ton to jump into on the AI topic alone. But I want to keep all of this, moving forward, and with Ian here too, just have a bit of more of a conversation about it, and not just a pitch and show. We have to do so many spaces like that. So Ian, I just want you, can you give us just a brief overview on the partnership between Bluebird and Matchain?
Yeah, I think, and Thomas, you could certainly elaborate on it. It was a few months ago, and as was shared, um, the data and identity sovereignty efforts incredibly important. It's not just Web3, blockchain, fintech. This has been the history of technology. I've said I've been in technology for over 2 decades now, and I've always said that people look at cybersecurity and secure elements kind of as an add-on or afterthought. It has to be foundational. If it's not, you run risks. So the fact that Matchain does what it does, incredibly important because their identity efforts are going to be part of the investor portal of Bluebird. We're going to be collaborating with them on different things. They have an EVM tier one platform. Um, will I think they're going to be using some of our cap table management efforts with different teams. So there's so much to the partnership, and we're just at the beginning stages. So I think there's a lot ahead. And honestly, I mean, if you look at the nature of what Matchchain does, and again, Thomas, you could certainly add on to what I'm saying, but the many users, the many transactions, the many platforms, you know, you're using it for social, you're using it for DeFi, you're using it for e-commerce.
Right.
The thing that's very exciting to me is, you know, the gaming elements, because if you think about games, right? Games for the longest time, you build a profile, sometimes you pay for things, and your data, your presence, your profile, your assets, they're all isolated to one thing. So what you're essentially doing is giving people the ability to go cross platforms in gaming, right?
That's right. That's right. I mean, that is because we are starting with focus not just on delivering a blockchain, but with focus on that identity and data and AI. Um, I think it is that focus that makes us special, right? We don't have, world changing technology. We are not massively differentiated. We are just focused on this vision around sovereign data, sovereign identity, and AI. And I think that's what gives us the biggest differentiation, plus our users. And we'll talk about it later on. But it is the users ultimately that make the difference here.
Well, I will just say, you know, there are amazing ideas, amazing visions. They're all part of the foundations of how you move forward. But until you make it valuable and actionable, it really doesn't matter. So while you're talking about the vision's importance, I'll even say that's great. But if you guys didn't make it actionable, it wouldn't matter. So I think you
That's
guys
right.
deserve a lot of credit.
That's right. I completely agree.
So I think, Mike, what else would you like to know? Because I mean, we
Yeah,
have a terrific guy here. I mean, he's Thomas. I've followed your efforts for a long time. When you went through your details of your history, um, and I will say, Matchchain is incredibly lucky to have you as part of the team.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. But I'm lucky to be here, and we have. Uh, we have magic sauce that very few Web3 organizations have, which is through the social media, through the messenger, through the games that we own, and through the e-commerce platform, we have access to millions, and it's more than 10 million users that have yet to enter Web3. And it is our first step of our strategy to get them into Web3, right? We cannot do the things that I talked about. We cannot have identity without users. Our WorldCoin has, I forgot what they have. I think they have something like 2 million users, right? If we can come in with 10 million, we are 5 times the size. And you can fact check me on that. But the numbers we are looking at are millions of users coming to identity, millions of users sharing their data, on which we can then help them monetize that data and bring and train AI models. So that's how the story comes together. But it starts with users, and we have access to them. We just have to get them to join us on this Web3 journey.
Well, I love that because I know, part of the Bluebird Foundation and mission, is we're certainly focused on Web3 as the evolution of business technology and, life continues, but it's also about planting seeds and cross pollination between Web 2 and Web 3. And it seems like you guys are building a bridge between the two as well.
Yes, that's how we think about it. I didn't share at the beginning of the spaces, but I'm actually, relatively old. I was a young kid when the internet was becoming popular. I was there graduating college in the late 90s, um, when people would put on their resume that they worked for an internet company, right? There were internet companies. Today we do that when we say Web3 or AI, but I think 10, 20 years from now, no one will say that, right? Today, Procter and Gamble, your supermarket down the street, your taxi cab is an internet company. They could not survive without being connected to the internet. And I think the same thing will happen with Web3 and with AI in the next 10 years.
I agree completely. I mean, think about it. Like you, I think we're probably of similar age. And to think if we told people that when we were graduating from college, that one day most people, not, well, maybe not most, but a huge portion of the global population would be walking around with computers in their pockets that were more powerful than the computers that put people on the moon. I mean,
Yeah.
the evolution of innovation continues as an incredible, but we have to do it the right way. And I think that's where our partnership really makes so much of, a big impact, that you're focusing on challenges, pain points, and opportunities from one side. We're doing it at another side. And it's this collaboration and integration where the magic happens.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I
Mike,
think
I
you
think
guys,
I cut you off, so I'm sorry.
no, all good, man. And this is how we do it here in the Birdhouse. We just get going on a topic and we could dive into it. And I think you guys, I fall into a similar age group as you guys, and it may not be all of our audience, but just to bring it more relevant, even within like the last 10 years, terms like Internet of Things, IoT was really popular, and it still exists, but it's not like a huge talking point the way it was at then. But we look at all of the devices and interactions that we have, and how many people are just using them on a daily basis, whether it's your AirPods or your phone connected with Bluetooth, your
Scooter.
computer. Yeah, your computer. Scooter, great one.
Yeah. I
Obviously,
mean,
uh, dish.
that's IoT, right? That would not exist without what we define as IoT. Right? Being
Yeah,
able to unlock the scooter with your phone, connected to the internet somehow magically anywhere on the street, being able to rent it without 5 seconds. That's IoT in the works, but none of the people using it think of it. Oh, I'm getting on an IoT scooter. No, they are just getting on their scooter and going to a store or to a club or to a bar, and that's it. It just works.
Well, it's
exactly.
funny that you brought that up because for 7 years now, I've always been in emerging technology, and I've been even before cloud used to be known as application service providers before cloud. But I've been on the International IoT Community Consortium for 7 years now with lots of major companies. And what you're seeing is exactly what you're saying. The terms of things aren't what matter. It's what they do and the outcomes they drive. Like, think about everything at the edge. Of course, sensors on oil fields and ships and infrastructure are important, but then you have things with everyday people at the edge. You have electronic vehicles. You have, like you mentioned, stores and cars, but you also have things like health tech where people are able to connect to different ways of monitoring their health, both good health and challenges, and to have immediate access to health because technology is connecting those dots between people and the things they need, not just the things they want. So I think, integration is always the key. Emerging technology, whether it's IoT, AI, blockchain, it's when you bring those things together that so much more can happen. And, you know,
Yeah.
from listening to the two of you, it's just making me more excited.
So let's I think we've definitely qualified how these big technology literally waves take over, and how huge a concept it seems at the time. People aren't prepared for it, and then how almost um without noticing they take over, and we just start using them on a daily basis and don't even think twice about what it was ever again. But we're here in Web3. This is a these are blockchain projects. We're all here for crypto. What emerging trends are we seeing in Web3? Thomas, and I'd love to get your perspective from the AI side, that we can talk about today, that will just be that seamless thing that takes over in the next 10, 15 years, and we won't even notice it. But what are you seeing today that's emerging?
I think I think there are I think it's going to be everywhere. I think Web3 is going to be everywhere. The ones that I would focus on, one, maybe we'll start with somewhat of a scary one, which is AI will get smarter and faster and harder working than us, right? AI, computers don't have to sleep. They can think faster than we can. They are already beating, our grandmasters in chess, and they will continue to do that across every dimension. They will be better, faster, and less expensive, and they won't sleep. So then, how do we control them? How do we ensure that they don't do something that we don't want them to do while we are literally sleeping? Um, and I think the only way we can do that is with blockchain, by putting together a set of smart contracts, a set of rules that are visible to everyone, that everyone in the world can see and analyze. And those are the rules that we apply to AI. I think that is one of the big innovations, big steps that has to happen for AI to continue to be a good thing for us versus a dangerous thing for us. So that's where I would start.
Well, I love that you started there, and especially with I don't know if you know, and shout out to the marketing team for scheduling the AI discussion on August 29th. But this for any of you movie buffs out there, at 2:14 a.m. August 29th, 1997, Skynet in the Terminator 2 movie became fully aware. So this is the anniversary of when Skynet went live. So I love that you brought that up as the scary thing, but also that you see blockchain as the solution, right? We don't just have to pull the plug. There are controls that can be put in. So I love that you started there, and just chalk it up to coincidence. But this is this is quite a coincidence. Um,
There's a lot of
so
good things that were just noted by the two of you, and a lot of it, I love that you brought up chess, um, because back in the day, I worked in tech editorial, and one of the first things I covered was IBM's Deep Blue
Right.
playing chess against Kasparov and beating him. Um, so I interviewed, Kasparov. I had interviewed the different IBM people, and then I worked at IBM. I helped launch Watson Analytics later in my career. But it's so funny because a lot of this stems from a similar thing. You know, AI has a lot of capabilities. I think we lean a little too much into the artificial versus the intelligence, but a lot of it is the predictive capabilities. A lot of it is pattern recognition at a grand scale. But the problem is like anything in technology, right? Data, if the data going in, garbage in means garbage out. So you need qualified, quantified, valuable data to turn that into something of benefit. And the authenticity and security elements and DeFi elements, decentralization, that helps that. So I agree completely with what you're saying about blockchain and Web3 addressing those challenges because, you know, we see generative AI is very powerful. It's a great thing in a lot of different ways. It's kind of what brought AI mainstream because AI has been around for a while, but it's a mainstream thing. But it goes way well beyond that. But at the same time, you know, we really got to think about why are we using these things and what's the aim. I think a lot of times we don't look at that and when I see these, advancements, I'm excited simply because we're gaining capabilities. Everything needs guardrails. But what blockchain does is it gives us a, a little better way to ensure that the ingredients we're mixing up to make the cake not only makes the cake look great, but it tastes great too.
That's right. That's right. I also like that you touched on data, because I think there I can make a more realistic example, right? Which is right now AI models, the large language models have run out of data. They've taken everything that's public on the internet. They used it to train ChatGPT. Elon Musk acquired X in order to train Grok. That is the big reason why he wants X, because data is needed for these AI models. We people have data and we can share it with AI models, but we would like to get rewarded for it. And that's what we want to build on Matchain. So not necessarily the data marketplace, which others are building. There's Ocean Protocol and others. But it's a very simple example, right? We need, in order to train some esoteric model, we need pictures of wheels. Why don't we just have everyone with an iPhone or with any kind of a phone, Android phone, iPhone, with a camera phone, take a picture of a wheel and submit it to this AI engine that is doing some kind of a machine learning on wheels. But let's do that in a gamified way, and let's do it in a way where we reward them with something. Today, our banking system does not allow me to send a micropayment to human in every part of the world. Sending a micropayment to 17 people in Nigeria, 5 people in Vietnam, 12 people in US in one transaction is just not supported by our banking system. It's just way too expensive, way too cumbersome. No way it's going to happen. Super easy to do on a blockchain, right? So that is an example of new possibilities being enabled by blockchain technology. And a simple use case is just literally paying micropayments for services around data provisioning.
I agree completely. And it's funny that you brought up LLMs because, they're incredibly important, but they're not all created equal. So I always joke that a lot of times these LLMs are actually large lacking models.
Yeah,
So,
I think after the first like couple months of me just being in love with ChatGPT, lately I find it underwhelming, even though I'm paying for the service and I have the latest model. And I'm experimenting with others. I'm experimenting with Grok. Grok is funny, but I don't think it's as good as ChatGPT. But I found the latest few answers to be underwhelming. There's there's lots of work that is still ahead of them.
I agree. What I've found, Claude has actually made some decent advancements. The one that I've done probably just as much as ChatGPT is Perplexity. Perplexity certainly has its issues, but I found the answers to be much more reliable, and I do like that the answers have sources. So, in case you haven't used it, that might be worthwhile.
I will give it a try. I haven't. So I think we're already sharing some alpha.
Awesome.
I love it. I love it when alpha gets leaked in the Birdhouse. Um, so for everyone out there, listen back if you weren't listening live and figure out where the alpha was. But obviously we've been talking kind of about the impact of these trends on startups and established products. But what predictions do we have for the future of Web3 in the next 5 to 10 years?
It becomes ubiquitous, right? Like I think people will start using apps or things without thinking of them being IoT or internet, right? Just like Uber. No one thinks that Uber is basically a mobile web to internet application that uses IoT. No one would ever sell it that way or think of it that way. It just, gets me from point A to B in a cool car relatively quickly, right? Same thing with blockchain. I think games will allow players to save their skins, save their assets, move them from a game to another game. But they won't mention the fact that there is a blockchain underneath that's making it possible. It will just happen, and it will become a standard. And a game that doesn't do that will not be commercially successful. I think that is the next evolution of Web3, where you basically don't mention it, and it just happens.
Yeah, that's a really interesting concept, but it makes sense with the conversation we were having earlier with the advent of the internet and the usage and then the smart connected devices and the Internet of Things. So I believe the same thing. I also think that as somebody who works with branded products and works for brands and has been in the commerce world for a long time, so much of the communication between brands and customers has been broken by large box stores, third party intermediaries, large e-commerce marketplaces like Amazon, and the data flow is going back to the storefronts and not necessarily to the brand. So as we see the connections, the connection points and the smart tags and the activation on the physical product and all that connected to the blockchain, it doesn't matter where you buy your product. Once you own it and you can prove ownership with a digital receipt, something like that, you will have a direct connection to the brand. When you buy Nikes from Dick's, you're a Dick's customer. You're not a Nike's customer. And Nike doesn't know that you have those shoes in your closet. They just know that they sold 100,000 units to Dick's last month. So, we've become a global society and we've become a global commerce. And I think that a lot of what was really great about mom and pop and Main Street kind of stores was being connected. And we're not going to lose these big brands, right? We're too dependent on them. But the way that we interact with them and give them product feedback and things like that. And so I see blockchain as a big part of that. And that's where, these AI solutions really help us cut through a lot of the muck when trying to compile that data and figure out who the top, 20% of your customer base is that's buying 80% of your product annually or quarterly and what trends they're setting. So that's kind of my prediction for the next 5 to 10 years, at least on the product side. And hopefully how I see AI playing into some of that. But Ian, what do you got for us next 5 to 10 years in Web3?
Well, I think it's going to be a lot of what you each said. Um, the other part of it is going to be that it's, similar to the internet. We used to have, you got internet capability at known companies with infrastructure. Then we had dial-up. Then we had services like CompuServe and AOL and all that kind of stuff. And now we're at a place where we have broadband connectivity, but even that is not as big because most people are relying on mobile infrastructure to get that access. We brought up Elon Musk, so Starlink and all that kind of stuff, giving capability across the world. Um, So I think this is all going to feed into that. It's all going to come together to hopefully address the pain points that exist across all of them. But one of the things I do think that we hear a lot about, and Tomas, I believe you probably do as well, and given some of the history you mentioned with blockchain and other things, you know, we're seeing a surge, and the market trends certainly are a little bit of a roller coaster right now, but we're certainly seeing a surge in the growth of real world assets. So I
Yeah.
think this is going to be a bigger trend because touching on all the things you said, touching on the consumer brands you mentioned, Mike, everything essentially becomes a real world asset. It's just we need to assign value. And a marketplace, it's all about supply and demand. So this is going to help determine what's valuable, what's not, where there's interest, and authenticate what we have to ensure there aren't counterfeits, there aren't stolen goods, there aren't whatever. And so I think there's a lot of work to get to that point, but I think that's what the convergence of AI, Web3, IoT, and machine learning and everything else coming together, they're pieces of a puzzle, and we're on the path to making that beautiful picture.
Yep, that makes sense. That makes sense. I've been, interested in the RWA space for a while, and I'm bullish on it. I think it's happening. The only warning that I would put forth for people is that I think investing or playing with the RWA technology is interesting, but the assets themselves, right? Buying tokenized assets, it's very reasonable thing to do. But what I'm seeing people do is think that if they buy a tokenized asset, then that asset will behave like a Web3 asset, which is will do 10x, 100x, 1000x. And that's not going to happen, right? If you buy a set of a portion of a condo in Miami, it's not going to appreciate 1000x in a year like a token may have done or may do. And I think some people are confusing those two concepts and getting disappointed. So I would just warn people to think through it and realize that RWA may be a great way to invest in something because it's easy to do that, and you can have portion of a condo in Miami or in Dubai or wherever, or in Singapore or Hong Kong, or a basket of those. But it's not going to do 1000x unless the real estate underneath does 1000x, which is very unlikely with real estate.
Absolutely. I think that's such a wonderful point. RWAs, while they provide access and different ways of monetizing things, they don't define the asset. They only represent it. The asset itself still has to be valuable, or else you're just spending a lot of money on something that's waste.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and the returns are similar to they're good returns. I think investing in real estate is a good investment, but just because it's on the blockchain doesn't make it a 10 times better investment. It's just easier.
Couldn't agree more. That was such a great point.
Yeah.
So we've touched on RWAs. We kind of talked about the future of gaming and how Web3 plays with that. Um, what do you guys see as the biggest opportunities in the space? Like, let's put our builder hat on, or maybe even a very active community member that wants to be involved and try to problem solve, and and where they're going to stack their bags. What are the biggest opportunities in the space right now that you guys see? Are they the RWs in the games, or are there others kind of hidden in between the lines?
Yeah, if I'm a builder or look, the AI space, there is a lot of opportunity in the AI space, right? AI can make things. That's where the 1000x opportunity is, because it will make things more efficient. It will make um, it will make our lives better. I do believe that if you're a builder, you should be looking at the intersection of Web3 and AI. Could be around data marketplaces, acquiring data are going to be massive. Intent based searches. So search is cool, like Google is cool, but if you're buying a TV, or a car, you'll probably spend hours on Google asking it questions, right? While an AI version of Google will just give you an answer. It will know what you like, it will know what you prioritize, and you will say, what TV should I buy? And this thing will come back with, you should buy a Samsung XYZ. And then if you want to dive deeper, it will tell you why you will like it, why it chose it for you. Today, you will spend 2 hours asking Google for all the features, comparing them to come up to the conclusion that you want that Samsung. Someone who wants to build that on a blockchain will do very, very well. Those are the 1000x, 10,000x opportunities, the intersection of AI and Web3. And my opinion, right? Not financial advice.
No, it's a great opinion. I love it. The innovation and the solution is so simple. But me, even as a technologist, I'm dragging my feet because purchasing AV equipment is kind of one of my guilty pleasures. So that research in that 2 hours that's kind of my happy place. But
What
you're
about
right. If I
fridge?
could just a fridge, no, I'd probably just price compare that. Although, no, you know what? We bought a new fridge last Black Friday, and I probably walked around Home Depot for 25, 30 minutes looking at them, kicking them. Went over to Lowe's, did the same thing, went back to Home Depot, got on my phone. So I
But
can't even say that a fridge. But yes, if I had that, then maybe I would have eliminated all that.
yeah, I mean,
Um,
I think, I love cars, right? I don't want to have AI pick a car for me. I will enjoy the process. Many people don't, right? Uh, there are some things I just don't care, right? I just want the right thing for me, and for it to be done quickly. Um, Travel, right? Like get me the best flight to Dubai. When I need to be there. You pretty much know everything, right? You know where I have a mileage, where I like to earn miles. It shouldn't take me hours or minutes to find it. I should just have three options very quickly provided to me based on my data. Today, when you go to a website that allows you to book travel, it's not really informed by that, right? It doesn't know how many miles you have across which and what statuses you have across which airlines or hotels, etc. It should know that, but it doesn't. Um, and if it did know that, like a human assistant, if you had one, if you could afford one, they would just know that you want to fly on, Qantas, because that's the airline that you like, and you're willing to pay $100 more, but not $500 more. And boom, and that's your flight. Um, I
right.
just find that entire experience still kind of stuck in the early 2000s, and I think AI can make it better, but then I need visibility. I need to be able to control what it thinks I am, and that's blockchain, right? um, because I don't want it to be in a black box. I don't want this AI to assume things about me without me being able to control it, to see it, and to manage it. The danger of AI is when it assumes things about me without me knowing. And that's kind of like how Google and Facebook and Twitter work today. We talk about these algorithms. The algorithms are supposed to help us, and they would if we could have access to them. But today they do things to us without us really knowing. And that's, in my opinion, dangerous.
This is really fascinating, and yeah, you touched a nerve when you brought up the television shopping. But as soon as you start talking about airline travel, like yeah, that's a time suck, and that's something that I wish I could just automate and be done, and then send my itinerary off. So I love that you've thought this through, and then I also like you hear a lot about people who are now training their AI to be their assistant, to do their social posts, to help them with their business, whatever it may be. But I love that this concept also, like you said, that's very much in a black box. It's not out there doing everything. It's you have to come and touch it, and it can't really be organic for you. So this is it's another nuance of what you guys are doing and why it's so cool. So I love that you brought that up and have given this so much thought. I'm psyched I'm getting to talk to you. I hope our audience is enjoying. I just want to reset. We're talking to Tomas. He's the head of strategy at Matchain, who does they're decentralizing AI on chain. So anyone who's not following, please jump up there, follow them, follow the Matchain account, follow the Bluebird account. This is obviously the Birdhouse hosted by them. We are closing in on our hour. I know we got started a little bit late, so we'll keep rocking for a few if Tomas, if you still have time. But I just want to be conscious of us coming up, and then yeah,
Yeah.
let's just keep rocking. So uh, we were kind of talking about the opportunities in the space for builders, and we've almost touched on this a little bit in terms of how the future of technology, we won't even talk about it or describe it as Web3, but what is going to be that thing? What are those factors that are going to change, that are needed for this mainstream adoption, for that invisible kind of layer, and have this be globally adopted and part of our life?
Yeah. Yes. Gosh, get your father or your mom or your sister, right, to start using this technology. We've been using it for years, so we take it for granted. But it's still difficult to get someone to transact on any chain. I think there are two good things happening, and I will tip my hat to, honestly, companies like Coinbase. I think what Coinbase is doing with Base is helpful for the industry because they are trying to make it easier. A lot of their community is very much used to Web 2 ways of transacting, right? They have an app on their phone or on their computer, and it's a custodial system. That's how they transact, and I think they are trying to bring these people to Web3. What we are doing at Matchain, we have a messenger similar to Telegram. Actually, what Telegram is doing is interesting too. We have a messenger similar to Telegram, but that messenger basically has a wallet in it. We did not per se ask people if it was okay if it had wallet. It just does, and they can choose to use it. And when they choose to use it, that's kind of like the default wallet that they use to transact on our chain. It has to be that easy. It has to be ubiquitous. It cannot be an experience where you have to go through multiple hoops to get something done on chain, because it will be niche. It will be kind of like the geeks like us who were very curious and interested in the technology and went through the onboarding pain. Um, but more and more technologies, Telegram, into our messenger, um, account abstraction wallets, PayPal, Robinhood are getting us there, right? PayPal and Robinhood allow people to buy crypto, invest in crypto, not necessarily not interacting with DeFi, but it's a step. I think wallets like Telegram or like in the Into wallet that we have on Matchain enables people to interact with applications, with Web3 applications. That is another step. We just need to continue to make it easier.
That's killer. That's killer. And obviously Telegram's in the news. It's something that, our entire industry runs on. So many of us are aware of it. But I love that simplicity of adding the wallet, having it be a feature, but not something that is required to join the app. And then actually, given the option to turn it on if you want to use it. But once you do, you unlock all these underlying powers that are there. So that is, not only are you thinking about what's going to bring this mainstream adoption, you're actually just baking it into the products you're making.
That's
Um,
right.
that's
That's right.
awesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ian, I'll toss it to you. I know you always have these great ideas, especially from the marketing perspective. Where do you see the mainstream adoption, and how do things like what Tomas is building, do they inspire you?
Oh, absolutely. And I think you both touched on so much of it. Um, I think the first thing is always awareness and education. You need those two, and curiosity, because that's the only way innovation happens. So once those things happen, then you start to experiment, you start to be an early adopter, you start to explore, you start to say, okay, what's really possible? But the next part of this equation, with Web3 and AI especially, is, you know, and Thomas, you mentioned this, you know, the algorithms. We don't really think, we almost think of algorithms a lot like AI, right? They're just these technology things without realizing algorithms have bias because they're created by people. So it all depends on who's creating them. But the second part of that is, again, having good data, having a community that's willing to share their data with you because it provides value. But then the Web3 and AI element that's exciting to me is that with AI now, you can essentially use a chat GPT to say, here's the concept I have. I want to try to, pull it together. It can produce code for you to do an MVP before you have to go out to VCs or angels, raise money, hire a bunch of people. You could get to an MVP. You can get community involvement to assess and validate your premise. And then once you have all of those foundational elements, you can raise some money, you could hire a team, you can get to that next stage. So to me, if we do have those safeguards, and again, everything needs safeguards because as many wonderful people in the world as there are, there's always going to be questionable ones who abuse things, who try to take advantage of things. But there's so many good people. I think giving more people, young kids, experienced people, you know, parents who are at home with their kids who are just thinking, hey, I have this idea, let me try to create it. Well, these emerging technologies are providing that. And if we can enable that more, I think it's going to just keep getting better. Because again, like I mentioned in the beginning, this is feeding education, healthcare, new business. It's feeding how we do financial services. It's not just big companies saying, okay, give us your money and we'll tell you what you get for it. It's, okay, how about we collaborate and determine that's what you could do. Here are my goals. Can you address them or not? Because otherwise, I'm going to go to this AI collaborative platform, and they're going to give me a list of places that can meet my goals. So I think, again, that access, education, and curiosity, that's going to drive everything in my mind.
Yeah, the access, the ease of use. It's funny that you mentioned the developer experience. If you go to Matchain.io and under developers go to tools, we've partnered with Starton, basically an AI dev tool for EVM for Matchain. So within, I'm gonna guess 10 minutes, you can launch an NFT collection using AI and code that they have already provided, templates that they are providing. So that's how we think of it as well, right? You need to be able to deploy applications quickly, and that's where the AI can help you. And that's the approach we are taking to developers and users of our chain.
Great example. And it goes even further, right? Because say, you know, you're buying a gift for someone, you're buying a piece of artwork, you're buying an engagement ring for someone. Not only can you get this, then you could authenticate it. It's not just
Yep.
this, value and warranty that you stick in a folder somewhere, you lose it, and then there's nothing left. Now you can have a digital representation that allows you to essentially have an insurance policy on valuable things.
Yep. Gosh, you're touching on so many things: insurance, authentication, right? I think um, Panerai watches are now including a blockchain-based authenticate of certificate of authenticity with each of their watches, right?
Oh,
So there are,
interesting. I didn't know
yeah,
that.
yeah. So there are high-end brands that are experimenting with that. Well, here in California, in US, I think California has announced that they are moving to a car registration system that is distributed ledger blockchain based. Um, so it's happening. The adoption is coming. Um, yeah, it's it's early, but it's coming.
All
Well,
right,
even
Tomas.
think about things like, and I'm sorry, Mike, for interrupting,
No,
but
go, go, go.
bringing up the car registration, incredibly important. But think about things like birth certificates.
Sure.
I don't know if you know Sandy Carter at Unstoppable Domains. Um, we collaborated at IBM, Amazon, places like that. She's brilliant, a terrific person. She brings up all the time how she has a friend who was um, born in Venezuela. I guess she didn't have her birth certificate when she was here. Her mom passed away, and then I guess everything was lost. There was no way for her to get a copy of her birth certificate. Like,
Yeah. Or a
and
school diploma, right? There are so many
exactly,
documents we rely on. It's funny. I'm looking at the diploma in my box. I haven't seen it in 20 or something years, but the Dubai authority required it to give me my ID there. They wanted to see it, so luckily my parents had it, and they were able to ship it to me. But those things need to be on blockchain, and they need to be managed by us, by some kind of an ID solution where we can easily give people access to them. And then,
exactly.
gosh, then we can go to medical records and how many lives that's going to save, right? If you've traveled, if you switched here in the US, states or hospitals or doctors or countries, you fill out the same forms over and over. Do you have any medical history? Do you have any allergies? That's crazy. We shouldn't have to do that. It's so easy to, it's technically so easy. It just hasn't happened because all these systems run in silos, and blockchain has the capability of bringing them together.
Absolutely, and I mean, it's great that you brought that up too. Electronic health records. I mean, think of all the paperwork that it backs up things in doctor waiting rooms. It backs up things in emergency rooms because everyone's filling out these things. Instead of saying, okay, we have that centralized in a decentralized way, we can access it. Let's treat you and not worry about paperwork.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, delays, not great, fine, but mistakes, right? Like people are getting hurt, or worse, dying because people don't know, because doctors don't have access to the information they should have access to. So that definitely needs to be improved. And but that also is where solutions like we are building with Match ID get complex. And while we would love to solve the medical records problem, that is not where we are starting. We are not starting there because of regulations, because of different ways of approaching this problem across every jurisdiction. It basically, anyone who starts trying to solve this problem ends up not moving forward. So we will solve basic problems that are not regulated. Rewards, gaming assets, things like that. We'll start there and then slowly build our way up to the more complex things like car registration, birth certificates, passports, and then medical records, etc. But we don't want to start with the big problem because I just don't think we'll be able to solve it right away.
Well, yeah, and you don't climb a staircase by jumping to the top. You have to go to the first step to the second to the third.
I love that. That's it. That's it.
Well, speaking of the first step, I was already on the Matchain.io website, but when you said go to tools and check out the start on, I immediately logged in. So my night is now booked. I'm gonna go play with that a little bit. Thank you. That's pretty cool that you guys got that right there. And I love that you guys are talking about, kind of one step at a time. I was actually gonna ask you, Tomas, just to share some of your insights into Matchain's long-term vision, but I think you kind of just laid it out there, talking about the slow approach and then the places that you look to go. So, is there anything you wanted to add to that in terms of long term vision?
Yes, I'm a very pragmatic person. We have the decentralized identity AI vision, and we are building it. It won't be delivered next month. Those are problems that will take months and then years to solve. What we will deliver next month is a chain with a lot of users, allowing developers to tap into that new to Web3 user community and build AI powered applications, because these users will need new generation of user experience, right? They are not developers, they are not people who've been in the IT space for years. Those are normal people like your sister, like your cousin, like your mom, who want to take advantage of Web3 technologies, but in a more traditional way. So you need to build applications for them that take advantage of AI, that make things easy for them. But we are bringing millions of them on chain. And I think that is what sets Matchain apart from everybody else.
Amazing. Well, thank you for that. And what, like, just as we're kind of winding down here, last couple of questions, but what are like the key strategies that you guys are implementing for, for this growth and innovation?
Yeah, so it is that user first focus. So when you talk to a lot of other chains, and I'm sure you do, they and it's not wrong, it's just different, right? They have a developer first. They have very busy, very developed DevRel departments, right? They are talking to developers. I just feel that right now we have 1,000 chains chasing 3,000 developers, and the ratio is just wrong. It doesn't make sense. Uh, when I speak to developers, they ask about money, and I ask what they're gonna spend the money on, and they say, "Oh, acquiring users." So I'm just gonna skip that for them. I'm just going to give them users. And then I believe that developers will come to our chain. How are we going to bring on these users? Through our assets, right? We have a messenger platform similar to Telegram with over 10 million users. We have an e-commerce platform similar to like Amazon or Alibaba with millions of users. And all of these users will be enabled, will come on chain, will have wallets in their apps. So I don't know if you use Amazon often. I've been using Amazon since 1997. But imagine that there was a crypto wallet in the Amazon app, right? And with every purchase, your warranty would get delivered as an NFT, and you would get some rewards going in that app, right? Every time you bought a Sony TV, Sony gave you some Sony tokens that eventually became valuable over time. That is what we are enabling with our assets on our chain. So we are taking kind of like this Web 2.5 approach, and we are slowly getting people to become Web3 users. We are not forcing them to download MetaMask on day one. That it's just not going to happen.
That's right on. Well, I'm already a believer, man. You've sold me. This has been fantastic. I think the whole conversation, seeing how the AI plays into this, I love that you have this control mechanism for AI, and you think that blockchain is what's going to be able to harness it, and set the rules and make that publicly accessible. And I think that's really brilliant. I want to learn more about that. So maybe we can have you back on and we can deeper dive, not when we're just in this conversational flow state, but really talk about it. Um, and we went a whole bunch of places. Ian added some great insight and some commentary. Tomas, you just absolutely blew me away with your depth of knowledge, with the product, with the way you're thinking about it, and I think your approach to onboarding. It's so simple. It's almost hard to believe that so many projects overlook it when trying to onboard the more traditional way of I guess traditional way, or the way that I've seen mostly, of getting them to mint and and be the sovereign individual immediately. Your approach is much more gradual, and I think that that's going to certainly attract a lot of people, almost unintentionally.
Right.
But as we're kind of coming on the hour, and I appreciate everyone for dealing with the technical delays. We still have had a fantastic conversation. I think we've gotten almost all of our points in. But I'd just love to hear from both of you on your final thoughts. Tomas, anything that people need to know about Matchain, events coming up, or just things in the future that we didn't touch on or that I didn't ask you about, and you can give us a rundown, and then and then we'll go to Ian for his final thoughts as well.
Sure. We announced our mainnet yesterday. We've been live getting developers on our platform, but we announced the mainnet yesterday. We are open for business. We are busy onboarding our applications and our users. So then you have this massive community that you can launch your applications in or towards. But first, we need to bring these users on chain. Um, we believe that we are at the end of the crypto winter, and we believe that the summer is coming, and we intend to launch our token, and then in Q4 of this year. I cannot say much more than that, but but that is what I'm able to say. So I would say, keep following us on social media, and you will know when that's happening. Um, we we have a slightly different approach than many other of what I would call the VC chains. We are not a VC chain. I think we are a community chain, and when you dig into our tokenomics and dig into what we are doing, I hope you will believe that as well. And I hope that it's going to prove itself. And I'm excited. I'm excited for what's in store over the next few months.
Really great to talk to you and hear everything you guys have got going on, but also how much you guys have already built and the thought that's gone into it. So thank you for joining us, sharing so many insights and helping get the the Bluebird community and your community together for just a fun chat to sit back and talk about Web3. But
Love it. Thank you.
yeah, absolutely. Ian, bring us home. You always come with the mic drop moments. I love what you have to say at the end of these spaces. Hit me with it.
Well, it's something that I've thought about a lot, with my Bluebird days, but given so many of the things Thomas spoke about Matchain, but just his experiences overall. I mentioned I worked at IBM twice, but a number of years ago, back when former CEO Ginny Rometty worked there, and Thomas, some of the different elements you raised and mentioned, and you're so passionate about, reminded me of something she said, and that's the only way you survive is you continuously transform into something else. It's this idea of continuous transformation that makes you an innovation company, and so much of what you said completely reminded me of her quote.
Awesome. I agree. Thank you so much.
So
Fantastic, guys.
thank you.
Well, I feel like we could go on for hours, and certainly the conversation was great, but always love and miss Corey when he's not here. So, Tomas, we'll have to get you back when Corey can join us. Ian, appreciate you riding shotgun with me, and bringing such another amazing birdhouse to everyone. Episode 9, 2 months in the books. I want to shout out our audience too, everyone who showed up, the people who showed up on time and early and heard a bunch of silence but stuck around. Thank you guys. Those of you that jumped in throughout the space, I hope you heard something that you liked that resonated with you. This is a recorded space, so please go back, listen again. Follow Tomas, follow Ian, follow the Bluebird account. Go find the Matchain public or the main Twitter account for Matchain. I'm sure they've got the links for their site and their Discord in there. Jump in, ask questions in the community. Again, saw a bunch of you guys requesting to come up. Just the conversation was going so great. We didn't have a time for questions tonight, but you can definitely ask them there. I'm sure there are mods, and Tomas will be in
Yes.
there to answer any questions for you guys. So just another great episode. Want to say thank you to you both. Unfortunately, no music on the way out with the technical difficulties, but we will be back next week, same time, and we will have another fantastic guest. So have your notifications on for the Bluebird account when you find out who will be joining us next Thursday. Until then, we're flying out from the Birdhouse. Thanks, guys.
Thank you
Awesome.
for having me.